In case you don't know, we use Anchor to distribute our podcast. We love it because it's free, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. There's no minimum listenership to start earning money, if that's a goal for your podcast. And everything you need to make a podcast is in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started creating your own podcast.
This week, talking about self-care and budgets.
Yep. And I think talking about self-care both as maybe doing things that are expensive but make financial sense, and also things that are free but take care of your mental health, kind of two sides of the same coin that are super important.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for both of those things, I first think about, as our audience members may know, because I basically sound like I'm 14 over the microphone, to have braces, was a decision that I made. Partially it was mental health, because I was getting real sick of going to the dentist twice a year and having them go, well, golly, aren't your teeth just so crooked? Like, yeah, thanks. I'm aware.
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, I've lived with these teeth my whole life. But also realizing that having straighter teeth would make it a lot easier for me to take care of them over the long haul, and maybe keep my own teeth that I've been stuck with my whole life, rather than having to deal with the nightmare of a lot of really expensive dental procedures and then getting dentures, which are not cheap. You might not think of braces as like super glamorous and Instagrammable, and they're not, but it is an important piece of self-care. But then also thinking about how like we have all this pressure on us to have it all and to make it look really good. And so sometimes self-care is just saying, you know what? No, having it all kind of sucks, which is also an article that is shared on our Pinterest board about self-care, and I'd recommend you read it. It's really good. So just saying no to stuff can be a very important.
When talking about self-care, I think that something that's happened relatively recently is that there is this huge push to focus on self-care, but I think it's in a lot of ways that don't necessarily speak to most people. So I will fully admit that they speak to me because they talk about like taking time to read, or, you know, taking a bath, or going and getting a massage because gosh darn it, you deserve it. And all those things are great ways to exercise self-care, and they are ways that I like to exercise self-care, but that doesn't, it's not the same for everyone. So finding the things that work for you as self-care it's super important, but also making sure that you're doing like things like going and getting regular checkups, because like Rachel said, that in the long term will save you money. And depending on your insurance, it might a regular
like an annual physical.
Yeah, like a regular annual physical covered by your insurance, dental and dental cleanings covered by your insurance, vision care, those things are typically covered. Now, again, it just depends on like what you have for insurance, but a lot of preventative care is covered.
I think that, sorry, just to your point about a lot of things that we think of as self-care, maybe not speaking to everybody. What it really comes down to is doing things that are going to improve your mental health over the long run. And so like when I think about health things, right, like, yeah, maybe it's not the most fun to go get an annual physical and get like a pap smear. I'm definitely not going to be Instagramming that. Nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. So not something that I'm going to show off, but the impact on my mental health of knowing, hey, everything is normal, everything's looking good for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about, cervical cancer or breast cancer or anything like that. Like that's like that level of peace of mind is not something that you can put a dollar amount on.
Right. I think that another piece of that is if you are doing those things regularly and that's that's preserving your mental health, that's also going to save you money in the long run. Something that I both struggle with, and also it is one thing that I do relatively well, is that if I start to feel like I'm getting sick to the point where I think that it might be something that I would need to go in for, I don't wait for it to get so bad that I end up having to go to like urgent care or the emergency room. I make an appointment. If I can't, then I go into urgent care, but I'll go sooner rather than later. I do my best to prevent it from getting bad. I'm not always perfect at that, but a big piece of that for me is also mental health stuff. I get really worried that something is really wrong or going to be really wrong. So I just go in and get it done with.
And I would say for the budget piece, if you know that that's something that describes you, add a line item in your budget for copays. Because then you know, right? It's not one of those, well, crap, I don't have $40 right now, so I'm not going to go to the clinic. Nope. It's just built into your budget. I mean, and I say $40 because that's what it is for my family to go. But, you know, whatever it is, right? Like, you know, budget for 2 visits to the clinic every month. And if you don't spend it, well, then that's awesome.
Yep.
But you don't have to stress out about it if you feel like you do need to go to the doctor.
Right.
Also say, as a policy wonk, as I was getting ready for this episode, I thought, is there a case to be made for self-care as a wise use of like taxpayer dollars? Because to my mind, part of it for women and why there's this billion-dollar industry around self-care is because we do live in a culture that expects us to take all of it on without, you know, and like it's no big deal. Except it totally is a big deal. You know, what would happen if the government supported people in a way that you didn't feel like you had to take everything on just to keep things kind of chugging in a regular pace? And I found kind of an interesting study about they took a sample of Medicare beneficiaries, and they found that folks who engaged in different activities of self-care, right, like whether that was regular exercise, you know, even as somebody who's the age that you are when you get Medicare. They also talked about like home remodeling as a form of self-care, so you could continue to live independently in your home for longer. That folks who spent money in those areas ended up needing to take advantage of their Medicare services as fully. So it would seem to me that a pretty solid argument could be made for the government to step in and say, you know, how can we help you get exercise more regularly? Or what can we do to make your home safe and livable so that you can stay in it for a really long time? So that's another just interesting piece of it to my mind as well, that you shouldn't just be engaging in self-care because we live in a garbage society that expects you to take everything on when you shouldn't have to take everything on.
Right. And I think that I love this push for self-care. And I would love to see it progress. I would also like to see it start to include some of those other pieces that, you know, we've already talked about, like going and getting annual checkups. And also, when you were talking about the exercise thing, it's super important. But I also think that there are many people that are like, I'm not, for me, for instance, I'm never going to go to the gym every day. Like it's not going to happen. I don't have the attention span for that. And I definitely could make the time for it, but I won't. I know me well enough. My couch and I, very tight.
Right.
But if my options are not go to the gym and like go for an hour-long walk with my wife, I'll go for a walk. I love walking.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it. I like talking to her, so that works.
Well, that's good news.
Right. She's probably laughing in her house somewhere right now, thinking, girl, all you do is talk. She's not wrong. There's a reason starting a podcast was a thing that was feasible in my world. I talk a lot.
Right.
Talker to no one. But I enjoy that. So that for me to do that regularly is more realistic than starting some like exercise thing.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna do it. Something that I'm very into, yoga. Love it. Absolutely love it. I'm horse crap at doing it regularly. Even though I know that I enjoy it and that I feel awesome after doing it, I still don't do it. I don't know why I'm like this. If anybody knows, let me know. I haven't figured it out yet.
Same. You know, I took up running at the start of the pandemic. Like 100% is a self-care thing, right? I'm working full-time at home with 3 young kids. Like, there has got to be something to get me out of this madhouse sometimes. And I stopped for a while in the middle of the summer because it was like 110 degrees even after sunset, and I wasn't running in that. And I just got the gear to be able to do it safely again now that it's dark all the time in our neck of the woods.
Yeah, we live in the land of darkness.
And now here's my hang up. Another part of the reason that I stopped in the summer was because I hurt my knee because, like an idiot, I stopped stretching before and after going for a run. That'll do it. I mean, it wasn't like completely awful, but not good to run on. So like you, I do mostly enjoy running, and I know I feel better when I do it. And if I do it in the morning, I know that my day goes like 1,000,000 times better. Do you think I can get at the energy to clear all the toys off the floor at the end of the day so I have space to stretch? No. And so I don't go running as often as I would like or should because my kids have like 3 million toys despite my best efforts to keep it to a manageable level, and there's just not room for stretching. So I'm with you.
Every once in a while, I see this trend on social media because it used to be Instagram that I spent like most of my time on. And I still like Instagram, and I've been kind of getting back into it because I really enjoy it. And before that was Pinterest. I still also love Pinterest, but
same.
TikTok has been my current social media obsession. So with that, if you have any awesome TikTokers, and I mean awesome, this person is super cool and makes awesome content, drop a comment somewhere with their TikTok user, and I'll check them out because I always love finding new ones. But also, every once in a while, I see on social media this trend go around about like taking a digital detox, and I kid you not, I should just take like a video of me in these moments of like realizing that I should do that because I spend way too much time on screens, which it is what it is at this point in life. Like we spend a lot of time on screens. I've adapted to this, and I have all of my glasses have blue light filters in them because that's just who I am now. But I will do this thing where I'll look at it and I'm like, gosh, you should do that. As I continue to scroll through the digital detox tag of all of these people doing it and telling me how great it feels. And I'm like, wow, that must be amazing to feel all this way. An hour later, I'm still scrolling through the friggin' tag. Again, if you know why I'm like this, let me know. I haven't figured it out yet.
I don't know. I'm like that also, but one thing that I found to be super helpful is setting timers for the apps on my phone where I spend the most time. Yeah.
You can guess what I do.
Do you go in and change them?
Sure do. I have very little like self-control. Like
Fair.
I'm like a toddler. Really. I'm a large toddler.
Most people are, if I'm being real honest.
I mean, probably. But, and this is also really funny to me. All of these things are true. I love going for a walk. I don't check my phone on walks. Like, most of the time I have it with me just like as an emergency thing, or sometimes depending on what we're doing, like if we go on a hike, I use it to map our route so we know how far we went and like the route that we took or something like that. But it's in my pocket. Or like we camp pretty much all summer. I spend some time on my phone during that. Most of the time I read, or here's another shocker, I talk. So I enjoy time away from screens. Like I do. It's not like I get away from it and I can't wait until I get back. When we go on vacations, I don't check my phone for the better part of a week. Like I check it like once a day to make sure that my parents know that I'm okay and that my parents are okay, and like we check in with my wife's people, but like for the most part I spend an entire day without my phone. I'm capable of it. I enjoy it. It just doesn't translate to my living room life.
It is truly bizarre. I think.
Another thing that I have been, the self-care conversation was so timely. I have been meaning to schedule myself a massage for like a month. And I set it up as like a reward for myself for a couple of things. Like I thought, okay, if you do this, or if this happens, go get a massage. Gave myself permission, have money set aside to do it. Do you think I've scheduled the damn thing? No.
Yeah, well, I mean, in your defense, we are also living in a pandemic, but like leaving the house to be with a person that you don't live with, even if you're, face down, at this exact moment in time, maybe not the best idea.
True, although I have to worry a little less.
Well, fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But I think you've been trying to, if I'm recalling correctly, you've been thinking about doing this since like July. So.
And then that was a big barrier for me.
Yeah.
Because that fear was very real. And not that it's not now. And for those that don't really know what we're maybe talking about, I had COVID. That was a thing. By the way, 0 of 10, do not recommend.
I'm sorry. It's not funny that you had COVID, but your take on it is funny.
I do strive to be funny.
You succeed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hopefully other people think so as well. I also, I often wonder, do other people appreciate my humor the way that I do? I don't know.
I know that there are at least 3 people on the planet that do. Me, and Bridget, and Nathan.
I'll take it. I will definitely.
I'm going to say maybe your parents do also. So then we're up to 5.
That's a decent number of people.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that number.
It's a whole hand.
That's all it exactly. Like really, and what more can you ask for in life than a whole handful of anything, really? Chocolate chips, people that think you're funny. It's the same.
It is.
Oh. Getting back on topic.
Right.
The point that we're sort of trying to get to, I think, is find the self-care stuff that makes sense for you. And many of the things that we've talked about involve some money on some level. And sometimes those things are like a one-time investment or a longer-term investment, like Rachel and running gear. But like yoga, sure, you could spend money to do it, but you can also do it for free. Reading, same thing. You can spend money to do it, but it's also available for free. Whatever your thing is, figure it out and figure out how much you are willing to spend on that, if anything. And there's nothing wrong with any of those ranges. You spend zero, spend a couple $100, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever makes you do the thing. That's what's important there.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I would add is that if you are feeling stressed out, right? Like maybe you don't have a mental health diagnosis, right? Like you're not depressed or you're not ADD or anything like that. But your mental health is starting to break down. That also impacts how you're approaching your money. So if you're starting to kind of feel that in yourself, and I will add, I'm not a mental health professional, neither is Cheyenne.
Nope.
So I'm just saying this as a human who has lived through this experience. If you're starting to kind of feel that in yourself and you know, okay, I'm feeling stressed out about money, spending money isn't going to help me, then find a free thing that's going to help get those stress levels back down so that you can think through things clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
So, and if you don't know what you like to do, well, just try some stuff.
Yeah.
Start with the free stuff and then, kind of work your way on up to stuff that maybe costs a little bit more money.
Definitely. I find YouTube to be an amazing resource. I learn so much from YouTube. I use it for yoga and nail stuff and organizing and cleaning. I've learned so many cleaning hacks on YouTube, but also TikTok, man. People who clean and organize on TikTok, like they are some sort of magical. Let me tell you, I adore those people for not only being so brilliant, but also being so willing to share. Like, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, sometimes I just listen to, ambient noise on YouTube because I like it.
And for real, you can find ambient noise from pretty much anything.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
It's true. I listen to a lot of, rain and fireplace cracklings, but I also sometimes listen to coffee houses right now because I miss just that, chattery noise. I like it.
Yeah. In our home, we've been listening a lot to forests at night because Elizabeth is obsessed with camping. And so I'll just turn our dining room table into a tent and then turn on forest at night. And the kids are like, woo, we're camping! It's free, super easy. I will say, though, for our dining room table tent, I bought a blanket for our bed a number of years ago that turned out to not work really well for the bed, but works out super well for a table tent. So did spend some money on that, but without realizing that I was spending money on that.
That's
anyone
sometimes
interested? It's a California King size blanket. It's really great. It fits over your whole tabletop, reaches to the floor on 3 sides of the table, and then there's a nice little entrance.
Perfect.
I'll just close out then by adding that we do have our Pinterest boards with Finance What that have all of the things that we talked about pinned in our board on self-care. So if you're looking for anything, you can check us out there on Pinterest, and you'll find resources for all of our episodes that we have recorded so far. Check it out.
Yeah. And as always, if you find something cool or you know of a really cool resource or just something cool in general that you think that we would like or you want us to look into more, send it our way. We clearly, I spend enough time on my phone, so I'll see it pretty quickly and probably go down some rabbit hole because of it. And I love those.